President Trump's auto tariffs are here, and that means
a 25% tariff on all cars that are not made in the United States. If they're made in the United States, there's absolutely no tariff.
Imagine this. You walk into work, same as you have for decades, but today the machines are quiet, the lights are dim, and your manager is standing by the door. Eyes down, lips tight. He hands you a letter. Effective immediately. This factory is shutting down. Your stomach drops. That steady paycheck? Gone. The health benefits you relied on? Gone. The pension you were counting on for retirement? Gone. Ford, an American icon, a company that once defined the American dream, is closing U.S. plants, laying off thousands, and moving jobs overseas. And it's not just Ford. This is the slow death of American manufacturing, the backbone of our economy for over a century, being dismantled piece by piece. Last year alone, over 20,000 American jobs disappeared, and that number is growing. Entire towns are collapsing, families are losing their homes, small businesses are shutting down. And here's the kicker. The very policies that were supposed to bring jobs back may actually be the ones pushing them away. So how did we get here? Can American manufacturing survive this crisis? Or is this the final chapter of an industry that built a nation? If you care about the truth behind America's economic collapse, hit subscribe, because this is a story you need to hear. All right, let's get into it. Ford, an American icon, is closing major U.S. factories. But this isn't just about one company. It's about a broken system that's failing American workers. The warning signs have been there for years. Rising raw material costs, steel and aluminum prices have skyrocketed, partly due to tariffs that were supposed to protect American jobs. But instead, they've made it more expensive for companies like Ford to build here. The cost of making the F-150, a symbol of American toughness, has jumped by thousands of dollars per vehicle. That's a hit no automaker can afford to take in a cutthroat global market. Then there's the supply chain crisis. For decades, American manufacturers relied on just-in-time production, keeping inventory low to cut costs. But when COVID-19 hit, that system collapsed. Parts became scarce. Delivery times stretched from weeks to months. Assembly lines ground to a halt. For Ford, this meant missed sales, angry customers, and mounting financial pressure. But it gets worse. Labor costs in the U.S. have surged. With a shrinking pool of skilled workers, companies are forced to raise wages just to keep their factories running. And while that's good for workers in the short term, it's squeezing profit margins and driving companies to seek cheaper labor abroad. And don't forget taxes and regulations. Building in the US means navigating a maze of rules and costs that simply don't exist in places like Mexico, Southeast Asia, or Eastern Europe. When a company like Ford looks at its balance sheet and sees red, the solution becomes clear. Move production to where it's cheaper and easier. But here's the real kicker. The very policies that were supposed to bring jobs back, the tariffs, the tax cuts, the political promises, have instead made American manufacturing less competitive. They've driven up costs, pushed businesses overseas, and left American workers holding the bill. So, while politicians argue over economic strategies, real people are paying the price. Entire communities are being gutted. Small businesses are closing. Families are losing their homes. But why should you care? Because this isn't just about Ford. It's about the entire American manufacturing sector. It's about the backbone of our economy. The jobs, the towns, the families that built this country. And if we don't face the reality of what's happening, it's only going to get worse. But there's more to this story. The impact of these factory closures goes far beyond just lost jobs. It's about shattered communities, broken promises, and a future that's growing more uncertain by the day. So, what happens next? Can American manufacturing survive this crisis? Or are we watching the final chapter of an industry that once defined a nation? Let's dig deeper. But let's get personal for a moment. Because behind every factory shutdown, behind every cold, empty assembly line, there are real people. People like John. John spent 20 years working at a Ford plant in Michigan. He put in long shifts, sacrificed weekends, and missed countless family dinners to make a living. He took pride in his work, knowing that every truck that rolled off the line was a symbol of American strength. It paid his bills, put food on the table, and helped him send his kids to college. But when Ford announced they were shutting down his plant, that pride turned to panic. Imagine being in John's shoes. You're in your late 50s. You've given 2 decades to one company, one job, one way of life. And now, it's all gone. You still have a mortgage to pay, medical bills stacking up, and retirement creeping closer. But finding another job at your age with your specialized skills, in a town that's been hollowed out by factory closures, that's a nightmare. And it's not just John. It's his wife, who suddenly finds herself worrying about losing their home. It's his kids, who are now wondering if they'll have to take on student loans or put their dreams on hold. It's the small businesses in his community, the diner where he grabs coffee every morning, the local auto shop, the corner gas station, all of them struggling as their customers disappear. And the ripple effect doesn't stop there. When a factory shuts down, it's like ripping the heart out of a community. Property values plummet as families move away. Schools lose funding. Main Street businesses close their doors. Hospitals and emergency services struggle to stay afloat as tax revenues dry up. Entire towns can die this way, not overnight, but slowly, painfully. One job, one family, one lost opportunity at a time. And for the workers left behind, it's more than just a paycheck they've lost. It's a sense of identity. It's the pride of building something real, being part of a team, having a purpose. John once said, "I've been with Ford for over 20 years. This shutdown leaves me with no idea where to go next." It's the kind of fear that keeps you up at night, that gnaws at you every time you look at a stack of unpaid bills or watch your kids head off to school, wondering what kind of future you'll be able to give them. So how did we get here? How did the American dream, once so strong, become so fragile? And more importantly, is there a way out? To understand that, we need to dig deeper into the real reasons behind these shutdowns, the perfect storm of economic pressures that have been building for years. Let's break it down. All right, so how did we get here? Why are factories like John's shutting down, putting thousands of hardworking Americans out of work? It's not just bad luck or poor management. It's a perfect storm of economic pressures that have been building for years. And it starts with one word: costs. First, let's talk about raw materials. Steel and aluminum are the backbone of the auto industry. You can't build a truck or a car without them. But thanks to recent tariffs, the very policies that were supposed to protect American jobs, the cost of these materials has skyrocketed. For Ford, that means every F-150, every Mustang, every Explorer costs thousands of dollars more to produce. And in a global market where every dollar counts, that's a death sentence. It's like trying to run a race with a 50-pound backpack. And it's not just raw materials. Labor costs in the US are higher than almost anywhere else in the world. That's not a bad thing. It means American workers can earn a decent living, but it also means companies have to charge more for their products. Now compare that to China. Over there, labor is cheaper, regulations are looser, and government support is stronger. Chinese factories can churn out products at a fraction of the cost, flooding the global market and undercutting American companies. And then there's automation. Robots don't take sick days. They don't ask for raises. They don't need health insurance. And as technology gets cheaper, more accurate, and more reliable, companies are replacing workers with machines at an alarming rate. It's the classic race to the bottom. Lower costs, higher profits, fewer jobs. And the timing couldn't be worse. Just as American factories are struggling with these rising costs, the global supply chain crisis hits. Ports clogged, parts delayed, shipping costs through the roof. For a company like Ford, this is a nightmare. It means production lines grind to a halt, sales are missed, and reputations are damaged. And this isn't just theory. It's happening right now. That's why plants are closing. That's why towns are being gutted. But here's the real kicker. While American companies are drowning in costs and regulations, their competitors overseas are getting stronger. China, for example, has invested billions in automation, infrastructure, and worker training. They've built entire cities dedicated to manufacturing, with supply chains so tight that parts arrive within hours of being needed. It's not just about cheap labor anymore. It's about efficiency, speed, and scale. And right now, the US just can't compete. So what do? Do we let these jobs disappear forever? Do we stand by as the backbone of our economy collapses? Or is there a way to turn this around? If you care about American jobs, if you believe in the power of American workers, hit the like button to support our workers, and let's talk about what we can actually do to save this industry. Because the stakes couldn't be higher. Let's keep going. So, where do we go from here? Do we just stand by and watch as American manufacturing collapses? Do we let more towns turn into ghost towns? More factories close their doors, and more families lose everything that they worked for? Or do we do something about it? Here's the thing. It's not too late. We can turn this around. But it's going to take bold action, real leadership, and a renewed commitment to American workers. First, we need to invest in technology. Automation isn't the enemy. In fact, it could be our greatest weapon if we use it wisely. Instead of just replacing workers, we need to train them for the high-tech jobs of the future. Robotics, AI, advanced manufacturing. This means upgrading factories, investing in cutting-edge equipment, and building the smart factories of tomorrow. But that's not enough. We also need to rebuild our supply chains. We can't keep relying on overseas suppliers for critical parts and materials. It's time to bring that production back home, strengthen our domestic networks, and make sure the American factories have the resources they need to compete. And we need to support vocational training and skilled trades. Not everyone needs a 4-year degree to be successful. We need welders, electricians, machinists, the backbone of American industry. We need to invest in community colleges, apprenticeships, and technical programs that teach these skills and prepare the next generation for the jobs that are actually available. But we also need to level the playing field. If we want American companies to succeed, we need fair trade policies that protect our workers without punishing our businesses. That means smarter tariffs, better trade deals, and stronger enforcement of trade rules. And perhaps most importantly, we need to reignite the American spirit, that fierce, can-do attitude that built this country in the first place. Imagine a future where American factories are buzzing with activity again, where families have secure jobs, communities are thriving, and main streets are coming back to life. Where Made in America means something again: quality, pride, innovation. It's possible, but only if we act now. So, if you believe in the power of American workers, if you believe in the promise of American manufacturing, then share this video, hit that like button, and make your voice heard. Because this fight isn't over, it's just getting started, and together we can rebuild American manufacturing. But only if we act now. All right, let's bring this home. So where do we stand? We've talked about the factory closures, the lost jobs, the shattered communities. We've broken down the perfect storm of rising costs, supply chain chaos, and global competition that's crippling American manufacturing. And we've laid out a path forward, investing in technology, rebuilding our supply chains, and supporting the next generation of skilled workers. But here's the real takeaway. This isn't just about numbers or policies. It's about people. It's about families like John's who've poured decades into their work, only to watch it all disappear overnight. It's about entire towns built around factories, now struggling to survive. It's about the American dream, that promise that if you work hard, play by the rules, and put in the time, you can build a better life for yourself and your family. That dream is still alive, but only if we fight for it. So, what can you do? First, stay informed. Don't just watch from the sidelines as this story unfolds. Share this video, spread the word, and join the conversation. The more people understand what's really happening, the harder it will be for politicians and corporations to ignore. Second, support American businesses. Buy American-made products. Choose companies that invest in U.S. workers. Every dollar you spend is a vote for the kind of economy you want to see. And finally, don't give up hope, because this fight isn't over. America has come back from tougher challenges before, and we can do it again, but only if we stand together. So, if you believe in the power of American workers and the future of U.S. manufacturing, hit that subscribe button for more real stories. And don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment below, because the only thing more powerful than a crisis is a comeback. All right, let's keep fighting.